Hello, you're watching Studio Ken. Make sure you don't miss any episode of Studio Ken by subscribing to the YouTube channel. To subscribe, search for Studio Ken on YouTube, click subscribe on the bottom right of your screen, and set a reminder. You can also watch Studio Ken on Diamond TV on Wednesday at 18:30 and on Saturday at 19 hours. Studio Ken, the home of Kennedy Gondwe on YouTube.
Welcome to the second and last installment of our two-part series with Mwamba Penny, who left the Roman Catholic priesthood after training for 8 years. In case you missed the first part, Mwamba Penny candidly answered questions on his decision to leave and dispelled notions that people that leave priesthood don't behave normally. In this second part, he talks about homosexuality in the church, his first love encounter, and much, much more. But first, how did his grandfather, the late President Michael Sata, take his decision to leave?
You said, actually, when you are going there, I know the character of your grandfather. Your grandfather was a very straightforward human being. And I knew that you may have issues, like there are certain people who don't like those who tell them the truth, you know. So he says, from that, I could tell that one day this person will come back. And then he says, maybe you should have joined the Jesuits. Or so go to school. Later on, you make up your mind. You can go back and join the Jesuits. Like he mentioned, Father Kaliepe joined the Jesuits from the Diocese of Kasama and stuff like that. So that's how I told him, don't buy tickets for me. I don't even have money for anything. He said, how much do you need? So I mentioned, and for my honors is this, for my masters is this. Oh, okay. Let's meet at the bank. He made a decision to help me just like that. So we met at the bank the following day. He gave me all my requirements, you know. So between the time I left the seminar and the time I went to do the university, it was just 1 week. So in fact, even the issues of like, now there I became busy and they started now arranging to go back to school, you know. So the loneliness that I used to feel when I was alone started disappearing because that's something to do, you know, and something to look forward to. That my life is now getting back in shape. I'm going to school probably. I might join the Jesuit after school or do something else.
Are there any moments that you regret your decision? Or do you feel it's a decision that should have even been made a lot earlier?
You see, I had a very good experience. You know, some of my best friend is actually an oblate priest, Father Chupwetembo. He's serving there at the Formation House in Makeni. I'm very close to oblates. I go there every now and then, you know, to have supper there, to share a meal with them, you know. They are some of the most genuine human beings that I've met, because these are people that you've known from when you're very young, you know. So there's no competition. They're doing something different from what you're doing. So in terms of issues of trust, we can trust them. Unlike like somebody, my competitor in my field, when you open up, they can use that information against you or to their advantage and stuff like that. So there are moments that I miss that life. There are moments I miss, you know, those interactions. But as to whether I regret making this decision or not, no.
Would you go back if you had an opportunity?
No, I'll never go back.
Why? Why wouldn't you go back?
I discerned my vocation, and I can say I can serve God in different ways. I'm an oblate at heart, and for me, going back is not an option. I was there, I was called for 8 years, and I served God for those 8 years.
The 8 years that you took to decide to leave finally, don't you think it was a very long period?
The 8 years was not too long, because each and every phase added a different dimension in terms of my understanding of the priesthood and my discernment with my God, whether this was really what God wanted me to be and whether I was going to serve Him more.
Would you consider the 8 years that you spent in priesthood as a wasted period?
Not at all. A lot of lessons learned. The training that I went through helped me to excel in my studies elsewhere, because it was a foundation. The relationship that I had with people still help me today, even as a consultant. Like, I get phone calls from Nigeria. Oh, there's somebody coming, can you meet them? I get phone calls from America. I was at an international seminar where we had people from 58 different countries all over the world. So today I travel anywhere in the world, there's somebody that I know. I recently traveled to Kenya. I met some of my friends from there. So I don't regret, because of the experience, the interaction, and the human development that was ingrained in me. Like I was saying from the very beginning, it's not just about academics, it's about your manners, it's about how you treat, how you interact with other people. So they are observing, they are watching you. So by the time you come out of there, you are a diplomat, you are a refined human being.
A refined human being. How long did it take you after leaving the priesthood to have a girlfriend?
It took me about 6 months.
Were you looking forward to it?
It's not really. The focus then was, you see, there was this fear that you may fail. You've just left something, so you may fail in terms of your studies. So let me put my focus on one thing. So it was only after 6 months. Again, I was also scared.
What scared you?
Because it was like, even when I'd left, every time I went out, even in a drinking place, like, you're like, oh, there are people watching me say seminarian. So it took time to actually realize that I was no longer a seminarian, But I think after 6 months, I met someone, and it was a different experience. You see, the way we look at it, sex, I was coming from secondary school. There was just a year between before I joined the seminary. I was very young when I joined the seminary, So I didn't have plenty of sexual experience before I joined the seminary.
But quite.
Yes, in secondary school, grade 12, you have a girlfriend, maybe with Kira girls or Kasama girls and stuff like that, who you only meet once a year or twice a year. And those days, it was difficult when you're growing up for kids to have sex. There are no lodges the way you have lodges all over the place. You couldn't invite your girlfriend in your mother's house to sleep with her. We had the relationship, but most of the time there was no sex involved.
So finally, this girl broke you and you had to go for her. Tell me the very first day that you met this girl. What was the experience like? How did you finally propose to them?
You start interacting. You're at school. You start interacting as students. Or I would like you to help me with this. Maybe it's a research question or to look for books. The university had a very sophisticated way of arranging books, like the system that they use to check for books. So maybe somebody didn't know. And then you cultivate the relationship for quite some time before you feel attracted to them, and then, you propose. And I think when you've been together, like, 'cause you play together, you study together, you do everything together, usually it's not like a proposal like, of somebody that you don't know, you haven't interacted with. I think one thing leads to the other. Before you know it, you are in a relationship,
And your first day of making love with this person, after 8 years, 6 months.
You aren't counting.
Well, you've given me the period.
Yeah. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in the bedroom stays in the bedroom. But the focus really not so much in terms of your sexual experience. The focus is.
Did you enjoy it?
Of course. The focus is not so much on the activity itself, because it's not like it's an issue of this relationship that you have with somebody, and when you happen to have intercourse, that is just that just adds spices to the to the whole arrangement. It's not like it's the thing is what you are looking for. In most cases, even when like that thing happened, like you develop a relationship with somebody, it was not like this one is going to be my girlfriend. No. You meet, you see that you've got similar interests, you know. You are all at a postgraduate level in terms of studies. You begin to visit each other's homes. I was staying with 2 of my cousins there. We are basically renting a house in Pietermaritzburg, you know, and you begin to interact. And from there, one thing leads to the other. So it's not like the way I put it, you don't sit in the seminary there, oh, I haven't had sex in 6 years or 5 years, and it becomes like a source of concern. Just like you can stay for 6 months without even thinking about it, you know. The issue is that there's a lot of theories, myths around sex and the priesthood, you know. I've met a lot of very faithful priests out there. People that time and again when I looked at them, I'm like, I would want to be like this person, you know. And then there were those who faltered. And the church has a way of dealing with people that falter. Just like in marriage, you don't expect everyone to be perfect. There are women with extramarital affairs, and there are men with extramarital affairs. We are all called to some married life, others priesthood, and the issue is that when you get ordained and you swear, you know, before a priest that you'll be faithful to this wife and this husband, both of you are called to the same. But we are all called to faithfulness. The challenge you have is that we think priests are from the planet, from another planet. They are from your family, from my family. They come from societies, you know.
And maybe that's the reason people ask these questions, because at the end of the day, based on what you are explaining to me, your life was programmed, but you've got these natural instincts and wants that may not exactly be programmed.
Yeah.
So if you see a lady, for instance, you are bound to get tempted.
Yeah, the temptation can be there, but just like when you're broke, you go into a shop, you see food, you'll be tempted, I wish I had money to buy this. You're not going to steal. Of course, there are people who would steal. You know, they would steal something in a shop, you know. There are various ways of dealing with temptations. And I think for me, what even makes it more interesting is the fact that you are tempted. Because even Jesus himself was tempted. You know, that's why you cannot be admitted into the priesthood when you can't function.
Hey, my name is Iliamo Puchpasha, an advocate on ending child marriages. You are watching Studio Kane. Please don't forget to subscribe.
So how do you think God looks at you nowadays? 8 years in priesthood, 6 months, you meet this lady, and now you've got children.
God looks at me as a person who has exercised his free will to choose what I want to be in life. God does not choose for you that you should be a Jesuit or an oblate. It's a choice that you make. And then if you decide that is not a life for you, you live. I think we have a general misunderstanding of who God is. You know, God does not judge. God is not going to be bothered because one person, God Mwamba, decided not to continue with his seminary trainings. I'm just one among the 7 billion people that he has created. You know, I can still save him, you know, in so many ways, you know, and God is not going to punish you for the decision that's why there's free will. Free will entails that I can make a decision for my life as long as it does not conflict with my Christian values. You know, if I was led into sin, or I'm no longer a practicing Christian, I'm doing all sorts of things, that's a different story altogether. But even a sinner, Jesus came for sinners, you know. So there's no shade of guilt in me that I left. I don't think God has got is not happy with me, you know. God is a loving father. God is a loving parent who appreciates you for who you are and for the decision that you've made. You know, in my in my entire life, I've been asking this question time and again. Do people get cursed when they leave? Why should God curse you? You know, God blesses. God does not curse.
But we've read of stories in the Bible where he curses trees, the fig tree, the story of the fig tree.
Now you're going into a theological discussion.
Okay, back to the topic. How much of homosexuality did you experience?
You see, you mean in the church or where I was
In the
studying?
church.
You see, in the first place, the church is the magisterium of the church has said that a candidate to the priesthood who is homosexual should not be admitted. But the church also contradicts itself. When you read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, its stance on homosexuality is that homosexuality is an intrinsic moral evil.
Meaning?
It's morally wrong in and of itself, but the church safeguards the rights of homosexuals. You see where the thing is?
Yes. So let me put it differently. How much of homosexuality is there amongst priests?
Among us priests, I never had any experience.
Not personally. Did you see those that you were training with or those that you were with in the priesthood involving themselves?
I saw those who had tendencies, like, when a man is walking like, but they were weeded out. Because, look.
On what basis?
I don't know. You see, the thing is that I belong to an international congregation. So you pick students from different places. Our first point of meeting was in Namibia, then went to South Africa. So the training facilities there has got no control who is picked where. You understand? So when you come, maybe they saw some similarities and then say, no, this person out. So you're advised to leave.
Earlier, we were talking about the contradiction that exists between the church's position on homosexuality and also having to accept those that are homosexuals, that are ordinary members. How does that contradiction then get easily explained to people like me?
Okay, it's what the church focuses on is this human being who is either lesbian or gay was created in the image and likeness of God. It does not condone the practice. Therefore, you've seen that in the Catholic Church, same-sex marriage can never be tolerated, unlike in the Anglican Church. So, in as much as the church is going to safeguard your dignity as a human being, it won't allow you to come in front and say, I want to get married to this person.
And what is your personal position on that contradiction?
You see, Jesus came for sinners, and there are different ways of sinning. Homosexuality is not the only way that people sin, my church calls the action as an intrinsic moral evil. It's a sin. Just like adultery is a sin, just like fornication is a sin. You understand? And I agree with what the church teaches on this issue. I also support the church stance that you cannot discriminate somebody on the basis of their sexual orientation. In as much as the church should not tolerate the action itself, but the sanctity of life, because you as a human being, you are created in the image of God and likeness of God. Whether you are found committing adultery or fornication or engaging in homosexual acts, the church should protect you, because the church is there for sinners. You should not be discriminated on the basis of your sexual orientation. But the church goes further and says this act in itself is an intrinsic moral evil. It is wrong, you know. Therefore, it cannot be tolerated. So, in as much as so what they respect is the position, this disposition, the act itself. So, in as much as they respect your dignity, they are not going to encourage you to involve in the act.
There are stories of men that have been unable to leave priesthood having secret children. Did you encounter any?
You see, the issue of secret children, it's like these are very personal and private things, you know. Somebody can have a girlfriend or they're having an affair. You won't know until they've opened up to you and say, this is it. You understand? Where people have had children and they've been discovered, the church has got a way of dealing with that.
But did you come across those in the priesthood that would have secret children?
I've had cases where even in Zambia, some people have been advised to leave because the church has discovered there was this and that.
How do former priests cope with life, people like you, after they've left?
It depends. I think for me, most of them, it depends on why you left, first of all. If you left in a very bitter way, you know, it takes time for you to, just like any other relationship, because that's a relationship that you have. You've invested your emotions and your time and everything. If you live in a very bitter way, it takes time for you to, but if it is your choice to say, maybe this is not my vocation, I have got no issues with the church. I know some people that are bitter with the church because of maybe the manner they left. I know some people that were kicked out of the seminar. They are not bitter. I know those that left on their own, still they are bitter. And those that were advised to leave, that are not bitter. You know, so it depends with the way you, what caused you. Maybe you are disappointed with something.
What makes priests leave priesthood?
You see, like in Zambia, there's no study to establish why they leave. In the United States, there was a study which was established many years ago. When the last time we had the conference of all bishops throughout the world was, I think, 1965, what they call the Second Vatican Council. A lot of priests in the US expected that maybe issues of celibacy would be thrown off. Therefore, there was a mass exodus when the council decided to continue with the practice of celibacy. So at least there, that was the main reason why most of them in the 60s, 70s left the priesthood. You know,
but then why do you think there was a mass exodus? Quoting your words, why do you think the church has continued with celibacy?
I think it's the church is 2,000 years old. The church has learned some lessons. And Pope Gregory, is it the 8th, is the one who reintroduced, changed the rules on celibacy. Prior to that, I think Pope Benedict the 7th, if I'm not sure, yeah, I encountered a lot of challenges where, from the perspective of the properties of the church, children of priests grabbed properties of the church, so the church lost a lot of properties in the process.
But should that be an issue of maintaining, or should that be the reason for maintaining celibacy when people have got bodily needs?
Not really. You look at traditionally, before even from the Bemba or the Ngoni or the Chewa culture, there are certain spiritual activities that were performed by certain individuals. They practice celibacy. So celibacy has been there before Christianity, you know. Christianity is only 2,000 years old.
But not imposed celibacy.
It's not an imposition. It's like you are a journalist. There are ethics that journalists are supposed to adhere to when they are practicing. So I need to ask myself, can I do that? If I can't, let me go and become a lawyer.
Are there any valuable lessons that you picked from priesthood that you still apply in your life today?
Yeah, discipline. Consistency, hardworking, and the human interaction, how you interact with human being, like make friends easily, and also the ability to stand your ground. When you believe in something, you believe in it, and you always have to make your voices known on something. You are not scared of expressing your opinion, and I think those are some of the values that they inculcate in you, because you are being trained as a prophet, so you must speak prophetically, be it to the powers that be it your family, wherever you are. So those are some of the values that I learned.
What would you advise someone if they were to come to you and say they want to be a priest when you yourself have left?
I would, if it's a vocation, I would tell somebody to say these are the pros and cons of heading into this life. I would let it bear to them. Even those who want to leave, I tell them to say.
But where would you lean more? Leaving or going for it?
I wouldn't encourage somebody to. It's a personal thing. It's like I'm interfering into their discernment with their God. They can come for advice. I will say, okay, yeah, but it's not a decision that I have to make on their behalf and say, leave or please go ahead and join the seminary. No, even the people that are there, I advise them. Oh, you want to leave? What's the reason? Oh, I went through this. Maybe give yourself enough time to think about it, because, like I told you, it was a process that for me to leave. It was a process of thinking, praying, reflecting, and you have a spiritual director, somebody that you speak to on these issues, and it's a requirement that you, whether you are in the ministry or you're in the training, you have somebody that you speak to, somebody objective, somebody who can advise, and somebody who can discern with you where God wants you to be, and then together you make a decision. But basically the decision is entirely upon you. The spirit that just advises you or guides you, or maybe ask questions here and there.
Mwamba Penny, thank you very much for opening up and hosting us.
Thank you so much.
Hey, my name is Iliamo Puchpasha, an advocate on ending child marriages. You are watching Studio Kane. Please don't forget to subscribe.